everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have come up with an A to Z of Animal Crossing builds. That means that there are 26. Yes, I had to Google to check how many letters were in the alphabet, but we got there in the end. But I have done 26 builds. I've tried to keep them as creative and kind of unique as possible, but this was a challenge. If you're looking for inspiration, I hope this helps you out, but let's get to the builds. A is for antique shop. I love making fake buildings, so that is exactly what I have done here. I've used the wide display cabinets to place some wares, some items that are for sale in the shop, and then I used the covered counters to give the shop a bit more of an antique-y feel to it. I also went for the dark wood because that does remind me of an old building and just old things in general. Out front of the shop, I wanted it to feel like a sidewalk, so I have scattered some items for sale and then added in some things that you might find in a town or a city, like some parked cars and also a little bench. I found this really cute antique boutique sign by searching on the custom design portal and decided to use this on a record box above the shop door and also on this little sign just to tie everything together. This is such a versatile build, and if you're thinking about doing a vintage inspired island, this type of build is definitely a must do. B is for bookstore or bookshop. For this bookstore, I wanted it to feel light and fresh. Because of bookshops that I've done in the past or little stalls, they've always been quite dark. So I wanted to go for this lovely white color scheme, and I used all of the white counters, bookshelves and storefronts. I decided to put the countertops in front of the bookcases just to give myself a little bit more counter space so I can display lots and lots of books. The area felt a little flat, so I did decide to add a cliff behind the shop and pop in some storefronts up there just to give it a bit more depth and something more exciting going on. Because it is a shop, a little checkout counter area is a must, so I used the cover counter for that. I'm sure a lot of you have done bookshops on your islands, but you can never have too much inspiration. C is for Cactus Farm. Now, I cannot take credit for this idea. My good friend Canada Crossing suggested this one, and as soon as he said it, I was like, yes. I have never had chance to decorate with the cactus items before, and they are so cute. So I'm glad that I got to experiment with these, and it was so much fun. Obviously, this build has lots of cacti, and to make it feel more than just cactus placed on sand, I've added some little farm details such as the handcart and the windmills in the background. I've also added a little stool so people can come and buy the baby cacti. Of course, a farm is not complete without my beloved barrels. Barrel core shall live on forever. D is for dance studio. Fans of my channel may recognize this as it is a ballet studio that I created for a vintage Kitticore island, and I had a lot of fun creating this on stream. The theme of this island was very pink, hence there being a lot of pink in this build, but I think it works for this idea. To make the dance studio, I had to think about what key elements you would see in a real life dance studio, so I added mirror walls but made them a bit more interesting by changing up the designs. The safety rails made for perfect ballet bars, and the dance costumes and little ballet shoes are just a must. I also added in the piano and music player so that you can listen to music while dancing, and the metronome to help keep you in time. I would be terrible. I have no sense of rhythm. Honestly though, this is just such a cute build, and I would love to see it on more islands. E is for English tea shop. I'm obviously British if the accent didn't give it away, but I do hate tea. It's controversial, I know, but I can definitely still appreciate a good afternoon tea with a scone, and this is why I wanted to create a cute little tea shop where you can come, enjoy a slice of cake and a nice cuppa. I decided to go for lots of soft colours here, nothing too kind of dark, because I want it to be nice, light and airy, and I also wanted to make it feel like it was surrounded by a natural garden. The tables have lovely linens and are topped with some delicious sweet treats. The counter and kitchen area has a nice mix between the covered counters and the dessert case. You can never have too much cake. This is a great filler build for any cottagecore or springcore islands. And FYI, it's always cream first. If you know, you know. F is for Flowerfield. With a name like Fleurs, you would think I had done lots of Flowerfield builds, but I actually haven't. And I had a big space to fill on my coastal town and thought now was my chance. I decided to go for a blue and white flower theme to match the rest of my island, but this is obviously very versatile and you can do it with whatever colour to match your island. I decided to break up the field by adding a path running through so that you can reach my house, and I also have a nice little seating area and a pond. Those two kind of ideas are just very cute and very in keeping. Another thing you can do to make the area more interesting is to think about the background. So here I have added in some windmills and balloons which look lovely when they're swaying in the wind. This is one of the most simple builds you can do, but honestly it's oh so pretty to look at. G is for garden center. Yes, this is definitely something that you could try building on your island, and it keeps on with that flower theme from the previous build. This garden center was on one of my Christmas islands, hence the kind of small Christmas touches here, but you can definitely adapt this to whatever works for you. I used the medieval building sides and fences to create an enclosed area, but you could definitely switch them out for other items such as the storefronts. They would look great too because they have that rustic feel to them. Inside the actual area there is a little cash register set up, and then surrounding that I just went in with lots of different garden related items, things that you would find in most garden shops, including of course lots of plants. There's a good variety of plants in here, and definitely mixing and matching them works really nicely. I would love to see a different take on this. It is a perfect build for most themed islands, including farm court, spring court, or even just a little town. H is for hairdresser or hair salon. I really like building real life areas in Animal Crossing, if you hadn't noticed, and it never crossed my mind to try building a hair salon until thinking of ideas for this video. I wanted to have a clear separation between the actual waiting area where you sit and meet the receptionist and the area where you actually have your hair done. So the plant partitions work really nicely to separate the area. I've also used some of the elegant decorative pillars as well. I think that they work really nicely with the whole theme that went on here. Then for the back, I've used lots of simple vanities for the workstation and some comfortable pink chairs for the clients. There is also a hair washing area and a coffee area because everyone loves to be pampered while they're having their hair done. I is for ice skating. I was one of the first letters that I started to struggle with, and I did nearly show you an ice cream shop, but instead I went for this natural ice skating rink that I created on my most recent winter island. I love structured ice skating rinks too, but I think the idea of a frozen pond in the forest being used as a little area for everyone to skate on during the winter months is so adorable. Here I added a little hot cocoa stand so you can stay warm whilst outside in the snow. There are also other small details that you can add, such as a sleigh, a little bench so that people can change their shoes, and also a first aid kit because ice skating is definitely dangerous business. I think all of my winter islands have their own ice skating rink. It is a literal winter must. J is for Junkyard. Now this build is definitely not my normal kind of style of build. I normally like things to look pretty, so this was definitely stepping outside of my comfort zone. For this, I grabbed all of the abandoned style items I could think of, lots of industrial items and trash related things. I was struggling, I couldn't remember the names of all of them because they're generally things I don't use much. There is a lot of scattered papers, lots of tires, trash bags, and of course barrels. I tried to get all the varieties in here. I also wanted it to have an overgrown feeling, so yes, there is lots of wheat fields too. This build definitely won't be for everyone, but if there is a villager you don't like much, you could definitely incorporate this build into their yard. Is that mean? I don't know. K is for Kitty Cafe. So for K, I may be pushing the boundaries a bit, as I would normally call this a cat cafe, but hey, tomato, tomato. This again was on my vintage Kitty Island, hence all the pink, but this build is so much fun, and if you're a cat lover, I think you'll love it too. Of course, this is like most cafes, you have your tables, your chairs, your kitchen, your snacks, but adding in a few little items and it will make it feel like a cat cafe in no time. Of course, the cat towers, pet beds, they're pretty obvious items, but I also dropped some fish bait to make it look like cat treats and a pearl to give the idea of it being a cat ball. And because there isn't any cat plushies, I definitely had to get a bit creative, and this is why there is a lucky cat behind the counter, because I needed a cat somewhere in here. L is for lemonade stand. If you're in need of filler areas, this is a great one. There are a lot of custom designs out there for a stall, and you may even find menu boards. I decided to go for this nice little lemon pattern and put it everywhere, including on the bottles. Honestly, there isn't too much to this build. You could add some seating if you wanted to, so people can sit down and enjoy the lemonade. Make sure that you have a cash register somewhere. But the devil is in the details, and I just love the way that this fitted into a bit of an odd area on my island. And also the lemons are just a cute pattern. They're just a really nice little design, and there are some nice little items that you can add with it. I added in the little teacup here as well because it kind of looked a bit yellow. A little bit suspicious, but it's definitely lemonade, okay? M is for mansion. Now, I didn't build a whole mansion. Instead, I decided to give my house the illusion of it being something bigger and better than it actually is. To create this illusion, I used the medieval sidewalls and some castle towers, and then I tried to take those colours and make my home match them as best I could. I also added in some foliage and stuff like that just to give it a bit more of a housey feel, and because it is a mansion, it needs a fancy courtyard, so I added in a fountain, some benches. Also, I think it's just a nice little area, and if you're looking for something different to do for your villager home, this is good. And I also think it says a rich person lives here, right? N is for Noodle Bar. I have an appreciation for Japanese culture and just Asian culture in general, but I am no expert, and even less so when it comes to decorating in that theme in Animal Crossing. So I decided to test myself and came up with this little noodle bar. I wanted for it to feel as if it would be at home on a city sidewalk, so there is a city road and a few city related items like the utility pole. For the noodle bar itself, I wanted it to have a few outdoor seating areas and then the illusion that you could enter inside to the whole restaurant, so I went for the simple panel doors. I honestly forgot that the Zen pencils came in different colours, so they did help tie in all of that red together. I'm not normally a red fan, but it works here, I think. Stepping out of your comfort zone is challenging, but sometimes you can definitely surprise yourself. O is for office, and this was my first interior build of this whole list. I thought about making a very clinical corporate office outside, but then I thought that was boring and dull. So instead I wanted to make an office that I would feel at home in. So I have lots of green and plants, and it just feels very cutesy and cozy. I used the glow stickers in the partitions to make a focal point out of the desk area, which I kind of love that whole setup, and with the shelves as well, it looks really cute. I honestly wish my office in real life looked like this. I would 10 out of 10 live here. P is for Pottery Class. I love the idea of having dedicated arts and crafts stations or just areas on islands. I think they are so cute. So for this one, I decided to create a pottery class. I went for a very earthy and neutral toned color palette to match the clay. Then I added in some generic things you would expect to see, such as a pottery kiln. I did use the stone brick oven for this, a teacher's desk, and some workstations. I also added in a scattering of pots, so it looks like they've come straight out of the kiln. I love these colors, and I think it would work really nicely on an autumn island. The color palette would just match perfectly. Q is for Quarry. This is another build I definitely wouldn't normally do, as there is something a little more industrial about it, but it does work really well. For this, I decided to use the caves at the entrance to the quarry or the mines. Then I added lots of train track designs to transport the little mine carts. For me, I felt like this would look nice in a little natural spot, so I decided to add lots of trees and greenery around the outside just to make it feel a little bit more thought through. But I think with the other details like the signage and fences, it still has that quarry and industrial feel to it, so it's like a nice combination between nature and industrial. R is for railway station. This is a pretty standard build idea, and I've seen a fair few takes of this idea over the years, but for my train station I decided to convert my museum into the station itself by hiding it behind some of the castle walls. I then had some space to make a platform and put some little stalls out front, so there is a coffee stall and a newspaper stand, something I think that you find at most train stations. Then because of the space I had, I used the caves to act as tunnels for the train, so it doesn't just look like it's going nowhere, it's got somewhere to go. And if you stand below it, it has a little bit of a bridge illusion, which I think is pretty cool. This is just a really nice, quite easy way to incorporate a train station into a town or even a city. I think it's a great build for them. S is for swamp. This was kind of my take on a swamp. It may be more like marshlands or wetlands, but I thought it was perfect to house my 2 frogs on my coastal island. The terraforming for this was a little bit of a headache, trying to make all of the cute ponds. If you don't fancy doing that, you could find some cute swamp-like custom designs. I tried to get in lots of wildlife with butterflies, ducks, and of course there are wheat fields because they remind me of reeds that you would find in this sort of environment. I think this build is a great space filler and you really can go to town with it. You can incorporate your villager homes like I have as well. T is for toy shop. What kid core island would be complete without a place for your villagers to buy some toys? For this toy shop, I decided to fill it as much as possibly could with toys. So I turned some cabinets around and even put more toys on top. I thought that the balloons and the plaza items also worked nicely here to give it more of like a fun feeling to it, like a toy palace almost. Even though the dollies scare me a lot, it's something about their eyes, don't ask me. I thought they would be a great way to welcome people into the shop itself. U is for UFO Club. Okay, I won't lie to you, U was one of the harder setters to come up with a build for, and I really was scratching my head. Then I thought, what if there was a little group of conspiracy theorist villagers that got together to discuss extraterrestrial activities like Roswell? He is a villager, isn't he? And a TV show. Am I getting confused? I don't know. So anyway, I did a little interior build which I thought was very dark and had lots of glowing items. There is of course a computer so they can post on their little forum, and a group table to sit around and discuss all of their wild theories. Honestly, this build was definitely clutching at straws, but I had fun doing it nonetheless. V is for Vineyard, another Animal Crossing classic, but I still love this idea, and frankly, I don't think that there was a better option for V. For my vineyard, I have a little grape farm area on the peninsula and also a wine tasting area. I really love the combination of the two. This whole area feels very rustic and farm-like, which is perfect for this build idea. There are lots of different ways to create the illusion of grape plants, including hats, but I decided to go for this amazing custom designed bush. It's just a really great design, and there are like crates and things you can add in as well if you really want to take it to that extra level. W is for wedding. It's been nearly 4 years of playing this game, and aside from creating a wedding area for Reese and Cyrus, I've never actually built one on any of my islands, so this was my chance. I decided to use the lovely flower path as the aisle and have little candles lining the walkway. I really wanted this to feel like a lovely spring wedding, something that would fit perfectly on a spring court island. At the top of the aisle, I placed the arch and a gazebo, which I think is a really nice combination. And I could have added like a table or something where people sign the registry, but I just wanted it to be quite simple and not over the top. Then of course, there is lots of trees and flowers to help it feel like a natural garden wedding. I would definitely say I do here. X is for Xmas tree farm. Don't come for me with the spelling of Christmas. It's common here to substitute Christmas for Xmas, so I'm rolling with it, because otherwise you'll be looking in an x-ray room, which I don't think you'd want to see. The build is another staple for winter islands. I love the mixing of the dirt paths and the different tree sizes. I think that just makes it a bit more interesting and nice to look at. For this farm, I also made it into Teddy's yard, so he had a little shed come stall area where people can go, pay their tree and take them home basically. There's not a lot to it, but it is just such a great idea, and the little details you can add with like shovels, hand carts, all of those good things that you see on a farm. If you aren't doing a winter island, you could definitely turn this into like a logging farm where people chop down trees. I just think that that would be cute and maybe great for a forest court island. Y is for yard sale. If you're looking for inspiration for what to do for your village's yards, then this could be a cute thing to have. All I did was search for a little custom design on the custom design portal, and I found this yard sale sign, and it's really cute. And then I just decided to custom design the path all around the house itself and incorporate this little section, and then just add in lots of tables, and then add in lots of like bric-a-brac items that people might want to sell. And I kind of went for colors that match the house. This is Hamlet's house, and it's actually quite a nice house for that villager. I'm very surprised. Anyway, it's a super cute yard idea if you're trying to think of things but you want something that's not so generic. I think a yard sale is a great way to go. And then finally for Z, we have a Zen Garden. I could have gone for a zoo. That would have been a very big undertaking, but this Zen Garden I love. I really wanted to go to town with all of the cherry blossom fields, and I said that I don't really tend to do Japanese and Asian builds, so this was another great excuse to try that. There's a few little stalls here. I tried to use some of the Japanesey style furniture, so we've got them up on the cliff behind, and there's just a really nice seating area. I think it would just be a perfect spot to just have a nice stroll around, enjoy all of the nature, and it's also a great space filler. So if you have a little area that you're thinking, what can I do with it? I want something that's a little bit different, you could definitely incorporate this style of build into your island. So there we have it. There is my A to Z of Animal Crossing build ideas. Let me know in the comments what you would have done for your A to Z. Is there anything you would have done differently? Let me know what one is your favorite. Are you going to be taking inspiration from this? Have a great rest of your day. Happy building, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.